Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to share with you a declutter video, and specifically makeup that I'm going to be donating from my collection. I have a ton of makeup that is almost new. Maybe I have swatched or just used like 2 or 3 times, maybe even just like one video that I have in my collection that I never really use, and I wanted to find a way to donate those products. And I do watch Taylor from the thataylaa, and she works with Project Beauty Share, and this is a nonprofit organization in the state of Washington, and they collect beauty products, makeup, shampoos, soap, like hygiene products, and donate them to local women's shelters in Washington. So I thought that would be a really great way to get rid of these products and still have them like go to good homes and put them to good use so they're not just wasted. And that way somebody can enjoy it so much more than I am by just having it sitting in my collection. And they do inspect and sanitize all of the products that are donated before they send them along to different women's shelters. So it is a little bit more of a hygienic process than just like passing along a product. And basically you can donate foundations and pumps, or with pumps, anything that's like a powder product, eyeshadows, blushes, highlighters, bronzers, palettes, like that. So that's what I'm going to be mostly donating today. And I actually do have a lot of foundations because sometimes brands will send me like multiple foundation shades or full lines of products, and usually I can find different people in my life to give a lot of the shades to, and that's what I've done in the past. But I still have like a couple shades from different collections here and there that I am so happy to pass along finally. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I'll share all the information for Project Beauty Share in my description box. The address that you can donate to, because they are in Washington, so I'm going to be shipping, and I'll show you guys everything in the box. I'm going to be shipping a box to them full of all the products, so you could be anywhere and ship them your products, because I know a lot of places here in LA don't take gently used makeup, only new products. And I'll also share the Taylor's channel down below, Taylor's channel. She's actually working with them right now where they created t-shirts, and all the proceeds from the t-shirts are donated to Project Beauty Share to give more of these products to women in different shelters. So I will leave those below. I'll leave her video that she just did recently below talking about it, because she's working with them right now to raise a lot of money for a fundraiser too, so you guys can know a little bit more about that if you aren't familiar with her channel. But I'm super excited for this. I'm super excited to donate products and have them go to like a better home and not be wasteful with these products anymore, just sitting in my collection. So if you guys are interested in seeing all the products that I'm going to be donating, then just keep on watching. Alright, so starting with my blush drawer that also has highlighters and bronzers. There's a couple things I know in here that are pretty new or like barely ever used. I want to pick out this one from Becca. This is Prosecco Pop. I got this in a BoxyCharm a couple months ago, and I actually love this highlighter, but I do have it in the Jaclyn Hill face palette. I rarely wear it. I have so many other highlighters that I love a lot more. I've probably worn this one maybe like 3-4 times, honestly, because I always pull for the one from the palette, so it basically looks completely new. So I'll be decluttering that one. And then I have this highlighter from Benefit. This is a super subtle highlighter, especially on my complexion too. It's a very glow from within kind of highlighter. It's actually super subtle. So this is Dandelion Twinkle. It's very light, it's pretty sheer, and I think I probably used this about 3 times. It still looks pretty much brand new. And then let's see, I have one of these from Kevyn Aucoin. There's a lighter one that I know I probably won't wear. So this is a matte to glow setting powder. It's really just a really sheer light highlighter from Kevyn Aucoin. I'm not even sure if I've worn this. I know I've swatched it, but if I've worn it, it's probably like 2 or 3 times. There's just a theme with all those products here. Some things I get as PR and I use a couple times, but then it just kind of piles up, so I end up not using it enough. Alright, so we have this highlighter in the shade Daybreak from Makeup Geek. I don't think I've ever worn this on my face. I don't even know if I've swatched it. Maybe I lightly swatched it. It looks like right here. But I don't think I ever even wore it. It looks completely new. So I will be decluttering that as well. And then this is Makeup Geek Ignite. This is a really bronze deeper toned highlighter. I think I just swatched it. It looks like I just swatched it, but I know I never actually wore this highlighter. They sent me, I think, all the highlighters when they released or with a collection last year, but I couldn't figure out a way to wear those on my complexion. I just wear luster, and yeah, that's it for the Makeup Geek highlighters. Let's see what else. So I'm basically just pulling out products that I know I've worn like less than 10 times. Either I just never ended up wearing them, or I got them as PR and I didn't really end up using them, or I just ended up replacing them with other products in my collection. This is a palette that I got in my BoxyCharm a couple months ago. It's like a bronzer palette, and I know these tones weren't working for me. It's definitely a very warm tone palette. I think I used the highlighter. You can see I swatched the highlighter, but I don't think I ended up using the bronzer shades. I will remove it from the packaging. I still had the packaging on this, but when something is not new, you need to remove the packaging. Sometimes I keep the packaging on palettes for like 6 months or something, but I'm going to make sure I don't keep any of the outer packaging for products that have been at least swatched. Alright, and then we have the Aspen Ovard Pixie collab. This is like a glowy light pink highlighter. I probably wore it maybe once or twice, and so I'll be getting rid of this one. I do like the formula a lot, but the color wasn't my favorite. I don't really like pinky tone highlighters. And then I have these two products from Catrice, a blush and a highlighting powder. I don't think I've actually used either of these products. I've had them in my drawer. I've put them in everyday makeup drawers before, but I always forget about them. They look pretty, but I have so many open products that I need to go through, so I'm going to pass these along too. Then I also have this e.l.f. highlighter in Bronzed Glow. I think they sent me like all of their highlighters. I swatched it for sure, but I don't think I ever wore this. It is too deep for my complexion. I think I meant to wear it maybe as an eyeshadow, but I definitely just like forgot about it in my collection. So I'm going to pass that along too. And I think that's going to be everything for this drawer. I actually thought that I had a lot more newer products in here, but some things I actually really love and have used a lot, or I just want to keep. But some of the products that I would declutter as well are some cream products that I have like in the back of my drawer, but I can't send over any cream products. They all have to be powder so they can be sanitized properly. But that's going to be everything from here. Alright, so moving into eyeshadows. If you watched my eyeshadow palette collection video, I keep all of my main eyeshadows in this upper drawer. All the palettes that I wear all the time, and I'm not going to be decluttering any of those. But these are palettes that I also enjoy, but I don't wear as frequently. And there's some in here that I know for sure that I will be decluttering. And there's some I actually like, but I just don't wear frequently enough to keep them in my collection. So I know I'm going to declutter this one from Jouer. This is part of their spring collection from last year. It's no longer available, and Jouer is coming out with some new eyeshadows, I think this spring, that I definitely want to try out, and I haven't reached for this one since maybe last summer. So I'll be passing this one along, and I think I actually want to declutter this one from Smashbox. I picked this up probably the last VIB sale or 2 VIB sales ago, and it's a really pretty palette. It works really nicely. It's a really nice neutral palette, but I barely ever used it just because I have so many other similar palettes and palettes that I like more. I really like the formula a lot, but I just didn't get enough use out of it. And it's not something I ever reach for, so I'll be decluttering that too. So I'm actually also going to get rid of this ColourPop All I See Is Magic eyeshadow palette. This is my least favorite of the ColourPop palettes that I have. I was kind of holding on to this because I really wanted it to work for me. It is pretty, but it's not something I go to over the other ColourPop palettes. I really love this shade and this shade in here, but it's still a fairly new palette. I just got it in December, and I think it's really pretty still. I just don't reach for it ever, so I'm going to be passing that along too. This is a little bit hard because there's some things that I never wear, but there's not so many palettes that are kind of like still newish. Let's see. I know some of these e.l.f. palettes are pretty unused. So this is the e.l.f. Holy Smokes palette. It's a cool tone all matte palette. I think I used it maybe twice. It didn't work for me, and I never wear cool tones. Let's be honest, I wear cool tones maybe twice a year. So I'm definitely not going to keep reaching for that one, and it's still like super new. And then let me go ahead and declutter this. This is the Pure Trolls palette. I bought this at some kind of makeup event a few months ago, and I really wanted it forever. I just never really, it's so new. There's so many shades that I never even swatched because I just have palettes that I like so much better that have better pigmentation and like more metallic color payoff. So this is still a very new palette. I wasn't super impressed with it. I liked it, but I get so much more use out of other things that I like other things so much better. I think that's kind of like the running theme with everything I've been saying so far. Let's see. I think all of those I use. Yes, so I'm going to be keeping everything else in here. I do have another eyeshadow palette drawer, and I can think of a couple palettes that I want to get rid of. Alright, so here are the rest of my eyeshadows, and there's a couple palettes in here I know I want to get rid of. This is one I got in a BoxyCharm a couple months ago. It swatched really nicely, but the application wasn't as pigmented as I wanted. It's really cool tone. And I said earlier I don't really like cool tones, but I wanted these to be super foiled and metallic, and they were just kind of like average. So I'm going to be decluttering that. I think I ended up using it twice. Same goes for this Pixie palette. This is actually a good palette, and I just don't use it at all. I used it when I got it quite a bit, but it's not something like I get really excited about. So if you guys are interested in it, it's like a good formula. Nothing's wrong with it, but I have so many more that are so similar to it. And then let's see, I'm definitely going to be passing along this Pure Cosmetic palette. I think I used it twice. I still have it in the box. I always do that with palettes that are newer in my collection or are rarely used. But let me show you guys all the shades. So here are all the shades in the palette. I definitely love the color scheme, but I think the Pure Cosmetics formula is just a lot more subtle. And I definitely need something that has a lot more pop and just like really foiled shadows. So I'm going to be passing this along. I rarely ever used it. I used maybe like 5 out of 16 or 20 of the shadows in here. So this was the Smashbox Holiday palette. This is actually gorgeous palette, gorgeous formula. But I'm not going to use it anymore just because it's not available, and I want to use things that are always available basically. So I do like it a lot. It's really pretty. I really like the formula, so I think somebody else would really enjoy it. I don't even think I ever used the blushes, but the contour shades are in there are really pretty too. So I'm just going to be passing this along. I think that's a really awesome palette for sure, but you guys see my collection, so I definitely don't need to keep it. So then I have this palette from Winky Lux that I also got in a BoxyCharm, and I feel like I've decluttered a couple BoxyCharm palettes already, but sometimes I get really amazing eyeshadow palettes from them, but this one and the Crown Brushes one weren't that great. So the metallics in here were definitely more subtle than I prefer, so I'm going to be decluttering this one, and I think that might be it. There's a couple in here that I don't know what to do with. Like this one from e.l.f. I don't like, but it is a cream product, so I can't declutter that one or pass that one along for donation. So I think that's going to be it from the eyeshadow palettes. I think I decluttered like 8 palettes, so I should be good to go with those. So lastly, moving into some face palettes. I have so many in here, and there's definitely several that I can declutter. I'm going to start off with this one that is just kind of taking up a lot of space in this drawer. This is from Too Cool for School. It's a pretty palette, but I have a lot of pretty palettes. So the shades are gorgeous. They are fairly new. The blush doesn't really work for me, and the bronzer is really pretty, but I have a lot of pretty bronzers, so I'm going to be decluttering that. It still looks pretty new, so that is definitely a plus. And then, let's see. There's some I have to kind of think about real quick. But I know I have a couple e.l.f. Palettes that are repeats, or I have that are like barely used that I can declutter. So I have these 3 blush palettes from e.l.f. They're barely used. I don't think all the shades have even been like swatched from any of these. I have a lot of e.l.f. blushes that are in duos that I definitely prefer just because of the shades. All these shades are a little bit too bold for me. But overall I do like this formula. I think it's like $6, so I'm going to be passing these along. I'm also going to be passing along this Jouer blush duo in Flirt. Out of all the blush duos, this is the one I've barely used, if even. I maybe just used it once when I was reviewing this. So I'm going to be passing that along. It's still super new and it's gorgeous. And then there's some things that I want to declutter, but I don't know if they'd be considered like too used. Like I have this palette from Tarte, and I don't want to send anything that looks like unappealing. So I'm gonna hang on to this in my collection just because I feel a little bit weird if I've had something for too long or it's just like too used. I'm not sure about certain products, so I'm just trying to be really picky and pick out products that are really like barely used. And then I have this palette from Real Her. This is a blush palette. This is another thing I kept the packaging on, but I did use it. And I know I didn't like 2 of the blushes, so I'm going to be passing this along. I think I just used the darker shade Unstoppable, but the other 2 I didn't use. I'm also going to pass along this e.l.f. contour kit. I don't think the shades are super ideal for me. I maybe just use these 2 bottom shades like once or twice. Otherwise, I think it's just a very light palette on me. I think I would need like 1 shade up from this. I think this is the lightest one. I don't know, but I never ended up using it. And I have other bronzers from e.l.f. that I definitely use so much more. I have a couple in my collection. I have a ton in my collection, like a bunch of e.l.f. 4-pan palettes. But I think, is that it? I love this ColourPop palette. I felt like I would have more. Do I want to get rid of this? So I was originally planning on putting this in my everyday makeup drawer for next month, but I'm thinking let me just go ahead and pass it along for donation because I've barely used it. It's still pretty new and a couple of the shades really don't work on my complexion. It would really just be these 2 and I haven't used them enough for them to be like too used, if that makes sense. And then some of the highlighter tones, like I use the yellow one a little bit, but the 2 on the outside don't really work for me. So rather than just use only half the palette, let me pass it along while it's still like in really great shape. So that is everything for palettes. I'm gonna put everything together and then you guys can see everything that I'm donating because I do have a couple PR products and stuff to donate as well. Alright, so I just stuffed everything in this box really quickly. It's super messy and unorganized. I'm going to go through this again and add some packing peanuts and make sure nothing ends up breaking. But I want to show you guys a couple other things that I'm going to be giving away as well. Well, first of all, the #1 thing that they request is feminine hygiene products because that's something that's not donated as frequently to shelters. So I have some pads and a big box of tampons, so that's why that's in there in case you guys were wondering. But if you guys want to donate to them, that's definitely something that they need more than anything else. So I thought that it would totally make sense to donate that with this package. And then Benefit actually sent me a ton of Professional about a couple weeks ago. I won a contest with them and they sent like a huge box like this full of Benefit products and primers. So I have a ton of Benefit Professional in here, the pearl and the regular one. I know this is super messy, but it will get fixed very soon. I do have some extra mascara. I want to make sure that anything that's like an eye product or something with a wand is still in the packaging where they can tell that it's new. I do have this from CoverGirl. They sent me some concealers. This one is too dark for me, so I will be passing that along too. And then I actually forgot I also have these highlighter palettes from L'Oreal. I swatched them both and I used one of them maybe twice, but the formula wasn't my favorite, so I'm going to be passing these along. They're still super new and they were just released too. And then I actually have a ton of foundation. There's some foundations in Ziploc bags under here with some bubble wrap too, but I do get a lot of foundations, not a ton, but I just want to show you guys the kind of foundations that I end up getting, like the full collection of. And I'm actually surprised that I didn't pass along as many as I thought I did, because anytime I get like a ton of foundations from brands, I try to pass them along really quickly, just not even necessarily like my friends, like even just acquaintances, because they're usually very expensive foundations. So I want to make sure that they're just not like sitting in my collection. Usually I would do like a full swatch video of everything, and then that way it's not new anymore because I did swatch it. But then I want to give it to people, but it's also hard because you have to shade match too. So I end up having a ton of extra foundations, and I'm so happy to finally pass these along. So I have some Jouer foundations. I probably passed along at least half of them when they were first released because I was dancing with a ton of girls and I basically had a foundation for everybody. Bare Minerals sent me a couple shades that were a little too light, or maybe just 1 or 2 shades that were too light, so I'm passing that along too. This is my favorite foundation ever. And then I did a video with Collab Cosmetics and they sent me their full line of foundations. So I just kept my shades and pass the rest along too. So that's always a hard one. So this is super helpful if I get foundations in the future from brands, like if they send out full collections. Some brands are being a little bit better now, like Smashbox. A lot of times they actually give you an envelope in the PR package to send directly the products that aren't your shade to a shelter, and you could check off which shelter. It's super awesome. So I hope more brands do that in the future. But that's everything that I'm going to be decluttering. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will definitely need to reorganize this, but I hope you guys enjoyed seeing everything, like through the process of packing everything up and exactly what I'm going to be donating. I will leave all of the information about Project Beauty Share in my description box, the address, the link so you guys can see what products you can donate and more about the organization and everything like that. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll talk to you guys soon in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.